What are the absolute best tips on packing for a cruise? I'm Gary Bembridge, and this is another of my tips for travelers. At the time of recording this, I've done over 66 cruises, and I try and pack everything I've learned from that into every single video I make. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 critical things: what to take, what not to take, and importantly, how to take it if you're heading off on a cruise. One of the most important tips is understanding what you should put in your hand luggage and you should put in your check-in bags. Very important, in your hand luggage, keep anything that's valuable, anything that's breakable. Make sure you got your passport or your ID, whatever you're going to need to get on the ship. Very importantly, you also need your e-ticket. Very importantly, nowadays when you go on a cruise, you normally need to have checked in online and have a document proving that you've done all of that. Your credit cards, your money, your currency, your cameras, your laptop, jewelry, your prescription medication, anything that's valuable, anything that you do not want to lose. Make sure that you keep that with you at all times. Also, think about things that you might need before you get your luggage that you've checked in. So if it's a great, beautiful sunny day and you actually know you're going to want to go out and get in the hot tubs or swim, pack your swim trunks in your hand luggage because you don't know how long it's going to take to get your checked on baggage. The second thing that I would say is really important these days to pack is either your mobile phone or your tablet. The reason for that is many cruise lines have moved to where they have an app, which is where they will do things like enable you to book excursions, shows, dining. It's where they have the daily program. You're able to check your account, see what you're spending. As cruise lines move more and more paperless to be more environmentally safe and sound and responsible, your smartphone is going to become a really important and valuable tool. What tips do I have on the actual clothes to pack? A couple of really critical and simple things to think about. First of all, what is the dress code? Make sure you really understand what you have to wear for dinners. Every cruise line has a slightly different rule when it comes to dress code, and you don't want to find that you're excluded from doing certain things you want to do because you haven't got the dress code right. Secondly, also check if there's any themed parties or special parties. There might be a white night or different themed parties. Think about what you want to bring for those parties, particularly if you're a big party goer. You'll find that many people will embrace the themed nights if there's a themed party, so make sure you've packed those. Thirdly, think a little bit about the excursions you want to go on. If you're going hiking, think about the sort of shoes you're going to wear. If you're going cycling, think again about the sort of kit you want to wear, the shoes you want to wear. The thing I always recommend when you go on a cruise is to minimize the amount of clothes you bring, just think about layers. So just think about sort of a base layer, could be as simple as a t-shirt, the next layer which could just be a sweatshirt, and then perhaps a jacket which is also waterproof. The next thing, decide if you're going to exercise or not. So if you decide I am going to be really good on this cruise and I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go walking, make sure that you bring the right gear. So many people go on cruises and they've packed their gym shoes and their gym kit, but they never end up going. So make a conscious decision and bring those clothes as well. The next thing to think about is what I call kind of your bathroom essentials. Probably one of the most important is to think about your little personalized first aid kit. And the reason I say that is you'll find that things to treat ailments that you might have at home, whether it's headaches, upset stomachs, those things can be quite expensive and difficult to get hold of on a cruise. You're going to find that you're either going to have to go to the medical center and pay to go to the medical center to get some of the things, or you're going to have to try and figure out a local pharmacy where you may have some language issues. The shops on board will be very limited in the sort of things that they can sell because they can't sell the sort of things you can buy in a pharmacy or a drugstore. What I recommend you do is have a look in your bathroom cabinet or your bathroom. The most common ones tend to be things like headaches, stomach related things. It's a good idea to pack motion sickness if you're heading on a cruise, sunscreen. I also really strongly recommend that you pack in there a tooth repair kit. These little kits you can buy from the drugstore, so if a crown falls off or a filling comes out, you can actually do a patch-up job either to the next port or even for the whole cruise. And that's really important because cruise lines do not have dentists on board. The second thing to think about is your toiletries. Now, most cruise lines will provide some of the basic toiletries, so whether it's soap, shower gels, body lotion, and of course depending on the type of cruise you're on, that can be very fancy branded stuff. So make a decision about whether you want to bring those or not. Don't worry about overpacking those because many of those basic ones you will be able to buy on board or within the ports. My next tip is around electronics. Nowadays we have so many electronics that we bring with us: mobile phones, cameras, laptops, and they all have different types of chargers. Now the great news is that many of those are USB charged, and all the modern cruise ships, and when they go through refits, are starting to put in USB chargers in all of the cabins. So the great news is you don't necessarily have to take lots of adapters. So make sure though that you've brought, for each of your items that you've brought, a charger. And it could be as simple as thinking around, do you have an electric toothbrush? Make sure that at least one of you have brought the charger for that. As we know, within the family you may have different charger needs because you've got different editions and versions of the different smartphones and tablets. Also make sure that you understand what the plug sockets are in your cabin. Many cruise lines will have US style plugs. A lot of them will also have the option of Euro style plugs. But make sure you find out what type of plug socket you're going to need, and make sure you bring those adapters. Of course, one of the best things to do is probably bring one of those multi-purpose ones, which you can then adapt based on the type of socket that you have. A lot of cabins don't have very many plugs, so one of the things that you used to be able to do is take an extension cord with you, which would have a number of different plugs. The cruise lines are getting strict and strict about what type you can bring. So check with your Pacific Cruise Line if you're able to bring on board one of those extension cables. Because if the cruise line doesn't allow you, they actually screen for that in your luggage and they will hold your luggage aside and remove it. Key guideline is you're not allowed one with a surge protector. But really importantly, make sure that you check before you start packing if you're able to take one of those onto your cruise line. And make sure, of course, that you've packed batteries if any of your devices operate on batteries. My next tip is around what you can bring on board in terms of alcohol. Most cruise lines have a policy around what drinks, and it's normally alcohol only related, so wine or spirits or beer that you can bring on board. So before you start packing those, check what you're allowed to bring on board. Any excess alcohol that's discovered in your luggage is normally taken and held until the end of the cruise. The same is true when you come back from an excursion or you've been on a port. They will also screen and normally withhold alcohol from you. Of course, online there are lots of discussions and forums around ways you can sneak it in. Now, an often forgotten tip, and one that I really like, is around packing your specific quirks and loves and likes. So for example, when I go on a cruise, there's a couple of things that I absolutely always want to take with me. I always take earplugs, I always take eye shades, because you never know how the curtains will be, you never know how light it's going to be. I like sleeping when it's nice and dark, I like it to be really quiet, so I always take earplugs, always take eye shades. I also like to listen to my own music, so I always bring along a Bluetooth speaker so I can listen to my music. I know a lot of people who do things like they bring their own pillow because they're really fussy about the style of pillow, or they like to have a white noise device because that helps them sleep really well. Think about the things that you really like to have around you, and even when you're traveling you want to have. For some people it's very specific tea bags or very specific type of coffee. Take those with you and think about those when you pack. My next tip is around cabin essentials. These are things that people like to have in their cabin to either make their cruise go smoother or easier. So for me, for example, it's very simple. My key cabin essential is a highlighter pen, because I like to get the daily program every evening and go through it and highlight the things that I want to do. Other people that I know, it's much more elaborate. So for example, I know a lot of people that take those over-the-door shoe organizers and they use the pockets to put things like their sunglasses, flip-flops, sun lotion, all different things that they like to organize and use, particularly if they're staying in a smaller cabin. For other people, it's room and door decorations. So think around the things that you would want to have around in your cabin to just make your cruise go smoother, easier, or just more enjoyable. The next tip is really important, and this is around things to leave behind. Now, there's really obvious things that you shouldn't take with you, like illegal drugs, guns, those kind of things that you know are just not going to be allowed on a cruise. But there are a number of restrictions and things that you can't take on a cruise that the cruise lines are really strict about. So for example, you can't take things with open flames, you can't take candles. On most cruises, you can't take products like curling irons. Most cruise lines will not allow you to take a drone. So drones, of course, are becoming really popular and more affordable. There's very few cruise lines that will even let you bring a drone on board. There's one or two that will allow you to bring them on board, but you can't use them on the ship, from the ship, or in the port. So you have to take them out when you're on an excursion. But many cruise lines will actually forbid you bringing a drone on board. And actually, if they spot that in the screening with your hand luggage or your check-in luggage, they will remove that from you until the end of the cruise. Also, there's a few things that a lot of people think they need to bring, like beach towels. The cruise lines will have towels that you can use to go out on excursions. Things that you really need to think about not to bring are things that are specifically restricted by the cruise line, and they're normally quite clear about those in the cruise contract and the terms. Bunch of things that they don't like you to use on board because they provide largely a fire risk, so things like curling irons, candles, and then those things that are just going to be illegal and can't be used on board: drugs, guns, knives. If you have any other great ideas in terms of packing, I'd love to hear about that. I hope that was helpful, and I'd love it if you watch many more of my Tips for Travelers videos. They're designed to help you make the most of your precious travel time and money on land, on sea, and the rivers of the world.